Welcome to the North Dakota DBE Trucking Participation Training, presented by Project Solutions, your North Dakota DBE Supportive Services contractor. During this training, we will focus on trucking participation on North Dakota DOT highway construction projects. Our topics of discussion include general requirements of DBE trucking firms, quoting projects to primes on North Dakota DOT projects, North Dakota DOT required forms used on their projects, Davis-Bacon and certified payroll, and using the 1-to-1 DBE trucking ratio. We will start our training by going over the general requirements needed to be certified as a North Dakota DBE trucking firm and how DBE trucking participation can be used on NDDOT projects. First off, the DBE firm must own and operate at least one fully licensed, insured, and operational truck to be used on the contract. During your initial certification process, you would have needed to provide title, proof of insurance, and DOT license number with your DBE application. If you do not own at least one truck, you will not be eligible for certification as a DBE trucking firm. Once you own one truck, you can then lease additional trucks, but they must be from a reputable dealer. This means that you must have a signed lease agreement in place, and trucks must display the name and identification number for the firm. A reputable dealer does not constitute leasing from a friend that has truck sitting, or leasing from the prime contractor that you are doing work for on the project. The DBE firm must be responsible for the management and supervision of the trucking operation. This means that you need to have a contract signed and in place between you and the prime contractor, and you are responsible for any employees or subcontractors that are doing work underneath you. A DBE firm may lease trucks and drivers from another DBE firm and receive credit for the total value of the transportation services the lessee DBE provides. This option should be first tried for the most participation for use on a contract. Let's go over the example here. DBE firm X uses 2 of its own trucks and drivers on a contract. It leases 2 trucks with drivers from another DBE firm Y. That means credit will be given for the total of 4 DBE trucks used on the contract. A DBE firm may lease trucks without drivers from a non-DBE truck leasing company, and if that DBE firm uses its own employees as drivers, it is then entitled to a credit for the total value of transportation services. Please note that a legitimate lease needs to be in place with the non-DBE truck leasing company. Let's look at the example here. DBE firm X uses 2 of its own trucks and drivers on a contract. It then leases trucks from non-DBE firm Z. Firm X uses its own employees to drive the trucks leased from firm Z. DBE credit would be awarded for the total value of transportation services provided by all 5 of the trucks. The DBE may also lease trucks and drivers from non-DBE firms. This agreement is called using the 1-to-1 ratio. This option entitles credit for the total value of transportation services provided by non-DBE leased trucks equipped with drivers, not to exceed the services from the DBE-owned trucks and DBE leased trucks. Please note that a legitimate subcontract needs to be in place with all second-tier subcontractors, and that you are responsible for the management and supervision of those contracted underneath you. Let's go over the example. DBE firm X uses 2 of its own trucks and drivers on a contract. It leases 2 trucks with drivers from another DBE firm Y and 4 trucks with drivers from a non-DBE firm Z. DBE credit would be awarded for the total value of services provided by firm X and Y, and will also be awarded as a 1-to-1 match for the total value of the 4 trucks from firm Z. This gives you a total of 8 DBE trucks for credit on a project. Additional participation by non-DBE owned trucks equipped with drivers that over exceeds that 1-to-1 ratio receives credit only for the fee or commission it receives as a result of the lease arrangement. Let's go over the example here. DBE Firm X uses 2 of its own trucks on a contract and leases 2 trucks with drivers from DBE Firm Y. It also leases 6 trucks with drivers from a non-DBE Firm Z. As stated before, DBE credit would be awarded for the total value of transportation provided by Firm X and Firm Y, but it will also be awarded for the total value of transportation services provided by 4 of the 6 trucks provided by Firm Z. So full credit would be for 8 trucks, and then the remaining 2 trucks would have credit for any fees or commissions as per the lease agreement with Firm Z. So if the DBE firm uses the 1-to-1 ratio, the following stipulations apply to track DBE participation. DBEs must have their trucks on the project at the same time as the non-DBE match trucks for the participation to count. For example, if a DBE is providing 2 of their trucks and 2 non-DBE match trucks, all 4 trucks must be on site at the same time to count the non-DBE match trucks. If only 1 DBE truck is on site and 2 non-DBE match trucks are on site, only one of the 2 non-DBE match trucks counts towards participation. This is monitored on a day-by-day basis, not necessarily an hour-per-hour stipulation. Secondly, the DBE firms will have to document on the Form C identifying the non-DBE trucking firms that they intend to utilize. We will cover the Form C later in this training. Lastly, if any changes are made to the non-DBEs used that were identified on that Form C, then the Civil Rights Division must be notified. Non-DBE match trucks will also have to display some form of signage in or on their truck identifying the firm that they are working for. This can be in a number of ways, such as easy as a magnet on the side of the truck or a sign in the window, but some form of signage needs to be easily identified. Also, the non-DBE match trucks must be listed under the DBEs in B2G Now payment system, and payments must be reported by the DBE firm to the non-DBE firm monthly, or that DBE participation will not count. Prompt payment guidelines apply to all second-tier subs as well. And lastly, the DBE weekly trucking report must be filled out and submitted weekly to the project engineer. Now that we've gone through how to count DBE trucking participation used on contracts, let's go over how to quote to primes bidding North Dakota DOT projects and where to find those opportunities. Let's go over some essential information. The North Dakota DOT DBE Special Provision provides valuable information on bidding procedures. You should familiarize yourself with this document. All DBEs that quote on NDDOT projects must submit all quotes and a list of contractors they quoted to NDDOT no later than 9 p.m. the day before each bid opening. Quotes must be submitted to subquotes@nd.gov. Prime contractors preparing to bid on NDDOT highway projects have requested that quotes be sent to them the day before the bid opening. 2 p.m. Central Time for suppliers, 5 p.m. Central Time for subcontracts under $500,000, and 8 p.m. for subcontracts of over $500,000. Please note, the SP states that quotes must be received no later than 9 p.m. the day before the bid letting, but it would be in your best interest and in consideration of the primes you are quoting to send your bids to them in a reasonable time frame for them to address them with the other quotes that they have received. They also may have questions on your quote, and without reasonable time, they may not be able to reach you. With that said, please be available after submitting quotes to primes for phone calls or emails for any questions they have concerning your quote. If you do not answer or your voicemail is full, they will not be able to clarify any questions and may not use your quote. Let's go over some information you should be including in your quote to prime contractors for your services. Prime contractors need as much information as possible from your quote to make sure that they accurately reflect that quote for service in their bid. Have your company name easily available and identify that your firm is DBE certified. Make sure to include the bid letting date that you are quoting for and the specific project numbers. And if known, you can include the material, spec, and code that you would be hauling per the plan set. You will want to list your hourly rate, and include an hourly rate with Davis-Bacon if the project requires them. You can include both rates with every quote to ensure those rates are covered if needed. Later in the training, we will discuss Davis-Bacon rates and when they apply. List how many DBE trucks your firm has available for use, as well as any leased trucks that you have an agreement for. Be careful not to overcommit any match trucks that you cannot guarantee at the time the project starts. This can cause issues later with your prime contractor and the services that you commit. Make sure to identify those potential second-tier subs, as they will need to be identified on the Form C. You should include the specific trailers that you have available. Note that different material or project plans might require different trailers, such as side dumps versus belly dumps. Finally, include your contact information so the prime contractor can reach out to you with any questions. If you use your cell phone number, please make sure that your voicemail box is set up and not full so that a contractor can leave a message if you are unavailable. Now let's talk about where to find opportunities to quote. One place is the North Dakota DOT DBE newsletter. It is sent out monthly and usually 2 weeks prior to a bid letting. The newsletter includes DBE program notices and updates, new DBE firms certified in the state, relevant business articles, quoting opportunities from primes, and trainings that are available either in person or with an online webinar. You can sign up to receive the newsletter delivered to your email address when it publishes by subscribing to the Civil Rights email listserv. Secondly, you may get contacted directly from prime contractors requesting quotes. Below is an example of what an email may look like. Make sure that your email address is up to date in the directory. If they do reach out, be courteous and respond. A simple, yes, I will be quoting, can I get some more information? Or, no, I will not be quoting this project. Please keep me in mind for others in the future will suffice. This good communication will help develop better prime subcontractor relationships. Another place to find opportunities to quote is the NDDOT Plans and Proposals page. On this page, you will find things like the Notice of Bidders document, all the projects for the bid letting date, and the plan holders list for jobs containing prime contractor info. Prime contractors can assist with interpreting plans, answering project questions, such as things like where's the pit, what are the schedules, and what are the quantities. Here's an example of the Notice to Bidders document. The Notice to Bidders document provides information on all the projects out for bid at the bid letting date. If there is a goal on the project, the type of project, the location, contract dates, and project engineers' estimates of the cost of the project. Here is an example of a plan holders list for prime contractor information. Contractors that are interested in the project and may be submitting a bid place themselves on the plan holders list. Anyone can put themselves on the plan holders list, as it doesn't guarantee they are bidding the project. You can reach out to the prime contractors and ask them if they are bidding. Let them know you are interested in quoting to them. They can assist you with interpreting plans, answer project questions, and this communication is important in building up that prime and subcontractor relationship. Lastly, you can view the bid sign-in sheet. As per the special provision, prime contractors are supposed to sign in with the NDDOT and indicate their intention to bid on specific projects. This can be found on the Construction Bid Opening Information webpage. The sign-in opens at 8 a.m., 7 calendar days prior to the bid opening, and closes at 11 a.m. the day before the bid opening. Please note, if you do not quote to all the primes that are bidding a project, only to one, and they are not the contractor that wins the bid, you never had a chance for the work. So now that a bid letting has closed, how do you know if the prime intends to use your quote on a project? The apparent low bid report is posted following the bid letting. You can check to see if a prime you submitted a quote to is the apparent low bidder. Note that the apparent low bidder may change if there are any discrepancies with their bid or they did not meet the goal on the project. Also, they may not use your DBE quote on the project for other reasons, such as not being the lowest quote, multiple DBE quotes, or maybe a bad history of performance. If a prime does intend to use your quote on a project, you will receive a Form C to sign for the contract amount and to identify any second-tier subs you may be using on the contract. We will go over this form in detail in our next session. So if a prime intends to use your quote on a project and you receive a Form C, what are the next steps? First, the prime will set up the DBE firm in B2G now as project payments are monitored through the system. The DBE firm is responsible for entering in all second-tier subcontractors that they intend to utilize on the project, as payments to them will be tracked as well. The prime should invite all subcontractors to attend the pre-construction conference, and primes will provide proposed project schedules as well as any updates on the project. If you do not receive these, you need to ask. PSI has free webinars available on developing prime subcontractor relationships, project scheduling, plans reading, North Dakota DBE bidding, and more. The more you understand the process for bidding, the further success your company can attain. We will now review some NDDOT forms that are frequently used when trucking participation is used on a project. First, we will cover the Form C. As mentioned earlier, this form is used if a prime is the apparent low bidder and plans to use your quote on the project. It is not a contract, but an intent form that is turned in to NDDOT 2 days after the bid opening date. It is suggested that you make sure you get a written contract with the prime as well. Make sure to enter in any second-tier subcontractors you plan to utilize to complete the work, and review all entered information for accuracy prior to signing. It is your responsibility to have a legitimate subcontract in place with any of your second-tier subcontractors. Next is the contractor's request to sublet. This form is used with all subcontractors, DBE or non-DBE, prior to work starting on the contract. It will be filled out by the prime, signed by both parties, and approved by the project engineer. Please review before signing that all information is accurate. This next form is the weekly trucking report. This form can be found on the NDDOT website underneath the Forms tab, form number 60781. It applies only when the 1-to-1 trucking ratio is used on a project. If you are only using your own trucks and drivers, this form is not needed. It must be submitted weekly to the NDDOT or consulting engineer, not to the prime contractor. All information needs to be entered on the form for your subs that are being used as a 1-to-1 match. The date the sub was used, company name, operator name, truck number, material hauled, and checking the box for each truck as being DBE, non-DBE, or non-DBE match. Next, we will go over the commercially useful function form, specifically the trucking section. This form is completed on every project by NDDOT project personnel to ensure DBE compliance. The prime contractor is not involved. Project personnel will review work being completed on the job site and fill out the form. You may or may not even know personnel is conducting the commercially useful function. A DBE must perform, manage, and supervise its work with its own employees and equipment. If a DBE fails to perform a commercially useful function, NDDOT can withhold payments to the prime contractor. Repeated failure to perform could affect your DBE certification. Some general information is taken from the contract documents and then observation are made on site. Information specific to trucking include: are DBE trucks on the job site? Are they owned or leased and is a formal agreement in place? Are DBE employees on the certified payroll? And is there some signage to identify the DBE, the match, and the non-match trucks? The last form we will go over is the replacement approval request. If you cannot perform the work of your subcontract, you must contact the prime contractor immediately by phone and explain why you need to be relieved of the contract. Follow up your phone call with a written request as to why you cannot fulfill your contract obligations. The replacement approval request form must be used if a DBE subcontractor cannot fulfill their contract obligations. The prime will fill out the form, provide documentation as to why the DBE cannot fulfill the commitment, and the DBE must also sign the form. Primes are not allowed to replace any DBE without written permission from the NDDOT DBE office. The prime must first try to replace the DBE firm hired on the contract with another DBE firm. Primes will resolicit DBE firms to fulfill the contract obligations, and if no DBE firms can do the work, the prime may then self-perform or hire a non-DBE firm. You may get contacted to quote work that was originally contracted to someone else. If you are selected, you will then enter into a contract with the prime, and a contractor's request sublet form will need to be signed. Please note, there are many other forms you encounter while participating in an NDDOT highway construction project. If you come across one that is unfamiliar, please contact us and we can assist as needed. This presentation gives an overview into Davis-Bacon and certified payroll, but if you need a more in-depth information, PSI has a webinar training specific to Davis-Bacon and certified payroll to better explain the requirements. This is located on the NDDOT training channel, and you can watch an on-demand video to better educate yourself on the process. In this training, we will give a brief overview into how to know when Davis-Bacon applies, where to find the current wage rates, and where to enter your certified payroll. Davis-Bacon prevailing wage rates are minimum rates and fringe benefits that must be paid on federally funded or assisted contracts. Contractors and subcontractors are required to pay covered workers weekly and submit weekly certified payroll records to the contracting agency. It is the prime's responsibility to make sure all subcontractors are paying their employees the correct wages and filing their certified payroll. Davis-Bacon wage rates apply to any federally funded or assisted contract. Davis-Bacon does not apply to complete state-funded projects or when the time at the site of work is determined to be de minimis. This means too small to be meaningful. For example, truck drivers whose time spent on the site of work is de minimis, such as only a few minutes at a time merely to pick up or drop off materials or supplies. There is a truck driver scenario Q&A on the North Dakota DOT Civil Rights Labor Compliance webpage, which can help understand when Davis-Bacon wages would apply. Some examples of covered workers include laborers, concrete finishers, form setters, drivers for various types and sizes of trucks, and equipment operators. Some examples of workers exempt from Davis-Bacon would be workers such as bookkeepers, inspectors, architects, engineers, superintendents, supervisory staff, owner-operators of trucks who are independent contractors. Davis-Bacon applies only to covered workers employed directly on the site of work. Site of work is defined in the bid letting documents. This regulation is of special importance for trucking companies who can travel in and out of the site of work daily. NDDOT has a Davis-Bacon wage and payroll handbook that explains how to define site of work. This can also be found on the NDDOT Civil Rights Labor Compliance webpage. For hauling purposes, you will need to know where the pit is located. If you cannot find it in the plan set, you can ask the prime contractor that you are quoting to for the information. That location may determine the hourly rate you will be quoting. If Davis-Bacon applies, you will have to pay your employees that rate while at the site of work. During the quoting section of this training, I showed you an example quote. It is good to practice to list both Davis-Bacon and non-Davis-Bacon wage rates in your quote. By doing this, you are covering the rate the prime owes you whether it is a Davis-Bacon job or not, as when Davis-Bacon applies, that rate of pay applies to what you have to pay your employees. If using the 1-to-1 match ratio, owner-operators of trucks who are independent contractors are not subject to Davis-Bacon wage rates, but any employees of the owner-operator's company will be subject to be covered under Davis-Bacon wage rates when they apply. Wage rates can be found in the proposal packet of each job as well as on the NDDOT website. If Davis-Bacon rates are revised while a job is still in progress, the wage rates in the proposal packet are what are obligated to the covered worker. When Davis-Bacon wage rates apply, certified payroll applies. The NDDOT requires the use of LCP Tracker, a paperless online system for entering and filing certified payrolls. Certified payrolls in paper form is not accepted. All contractors must file their payroll electronically. The prime contractor will set you up in the online system, and you may have to set up a contractor account. The prime will ensure you are aware of filing your payrolls electronically. Payrolls are monitored and corrections will be requested if not in compliance. If you are an owner-operator and have no employees, you will be placed on the payroll of the company you are subcontracted with the owner-operator box checked and no other information provided. If you have an employee working for you, even occasionally, you must set up a contractor account yourself and file certified payroll. There are guides, FAQs, and additional resources on the NDDOT Labor Compliance webpage in regard to LCP Tracker. If you have any questions on Davis-Bacon, Certified Payroll, or LCP Tracker, you can contact the Labor Compliance Officer at 701-328-2605. If you are going to utilize the 1-to-1 trucking match ratio on NDDOT projects, let's review some of the necessary requirements to count participation. Number 1, the DBE may lease trucks and drivers from a non-DBE firm. This option entitles credit for the total value of transportation services provided by non-DBE leased trucks equipped with drivers, not to exceed the services from the DBE-owned trucks and DBE leased trucks. For example, DBE firm X uses 2 of its own trucks and drivers on a contract. It leases 2 trucks with drivers from non-DBE firm Z. DBE credit would be awarded for the total value of transportation services provided by firm X and firm Z for a total of 4 trucks. Number 2, a legitimate subcontract needs to be in place with all second-tier subcontractors. 3, you must note all subcontractors on Form C and identify the non-DBE trucking firms that you intend to utilize. Number 4, non-DBE match trucks will have to display some form of signage in or on their truck identifying the DBE firm that they are working with. Number 5, DBE trucks must be on the project the same time as the non-DBE match trucks when the 1-to-1 ratio is being used for the participation to count. Trucks must be on site daily. There is oversight from project personnel and a CUF will be conducted for the participation to count. Number 6, don't forget to submit your weekly trucking reports. And remember, these go to the NDDOT or consulting engineer, not to the prime contractor. Number 7, all subcontractors, DBE match and non-match, must be listed in B2G Now and payments must be reported by the DBE firm monthly or the DBE participation does not count. And finally, when subcontracting to a non-DBE trucking company and for that 1-to-1 match ratio to apply, you must verify certified payrolls of any employees of the company working on the project. If you are only using owner-operators of trucks who are independent contractors, this does not apply. This covers our review of the 1-to-1 trucking match ratio in all sections on DBE trucking participation and requirements. If you have any questions following this webinar, please feel free to contact Project Solutions, the DBE Supported Services Coordinator, or you can reach out to the NDDOT Civil Rights Program Administrator, and we'll be happy to help you with any questions you have. Thank you, and have a great day.